These guys are just weird.
It's not just a weird style that he brings. It's that this leads to weird policies.
A super weird idea from J.D. Vance.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's quite weird.
On the other side, they're just weird.
And by the way, don't you find some of their stuff to just be plain weird?
These guys are creepy and, yes, just weird as hell.
Walz started it, many other people picking up that rhetorical baton. Democrats appear enthused. They raised over $35 million just in the last day. Now, Walz generally has a mellow style mixed with this progressive record. He was one of the first governors to sign abortion rights bills after Roe fell with the Trump justices who joined the court. Now, that was back in January 2023. A lot of what we're seeing yesterday and today is brand new, but I want to give you some context because back then conservatives were on offense and the Supreme Court had done what it did. And remember, there was literally no talk of Governor Walz becoming a national figure then. He had been in the state for some time and wasn't any part of any national plans, certainly not becoming a running mate. So here's what he said then around that bill signing.
Today is an extraordinary day. The PRO Act establishes in state law that you have a fundamental right to an abortion and reproductive health care. This bill also serves as another line of defense in our state to ensure that your rights stay protected and that no one can tell you what decisions to make about your body.
That was, I should say, at the signing ceremony where they had multiple speakers. The new darling of the party, of course, Walz, is now building on that record, what he and others discussed that day, with a really strong call for human rights last night and a line that brought down the House.
Some of us are old enough to remember when it was Republicans who were talking about freedom. It turns out now what they meant was the government should be free to invade your doctor's office. In Minnesota, we respect our neighbors and their personal choices that they make. Even if we wouldn't make the same choice for ourselves, there's a golden rule. Mind your own damn business.
Now, again, this is a path from a policy record to what is also a political appeal, and it continues throughout the speech. Some of the cred, which Harris says she valued, his record. Here's Walz on public safety and crime as governor, and last night.
We've invested $300 million in public safety for communities across the state to fight crime and improve emergency services. While violent crime has declined in Minneapolis, St. Paul, and across the state, there's still much work to do.
Violent crime was up under Donald Trump. That's not even counting the crimes he committed.
Substance, zinger. Now, Democrats think Walz can embody the constituency they want to hold together in November, the coalition, but also how they view America at large, a chance to argue that progress, reform, and even kindness, as well as joy, which they mentioned so many times last night, all of that can be part of an inclusive American liberal style that is also everyday, relatable, down to earth. It can include white-collar lefties and white dudes on the coast, as they've said, but also centrists and independents around the nation, from doctors to teachers, which Walz was for so many years. We have a photo there in the classroom. The yearbook caption says Walz waking up his first-hour class with current events discussions. Now, how awake were they? Only the students can tell you. There's another yearbook photo that shows him with his wife, Gwen, also a teacher. And then there's the football coaching. He is shown here with his players. This was back in the late 90s. Walz has often waxed about those coaching days.
The coach who could see a championship 3 years before the big game. The teacher who inspires generations one by one.
And I can tell you, approaching this from a perspective, I'm a school teacher by profession. Any given day, I'm a husband, a father, a son, a brother. I'm a teacher. I'm a politician. I'm a bad golfer.
Under those Friday night lights, Coach Walz motivated his players to believe they could achieve anything.
Don't ever underestimate teachers.
Long list there. You almost got to, midnight toker. Now, look, when it comes to all of this stuff, American culture is suffused with sports. and specifically school sports, which is, of course, a dynamic all its own, especially in small towns and college towns, but also the lessons and inspiration that sports can bring. Now, that's obviously not red or blue, liberal or conservative. But Republican activists have tried to corner the market on that in certain aspects of what they believe is Americana and where the real America is. Now, on the one hand, all of those debates are silly and exhausting. But on the other hand, in politics, you got to deal with things. So rather than cede that ground to a claimed monopoly by the right, Walz cuts right through all it, and pretty quickly. Now, over 70% of the public did not know who he was before yesterday. So it's going to take some time to get to know him, and not everyone is watching each and every campaign event as they come. But there are signs he's making a good first impression with those who were watching. There's these homespun memes and puns, and what's more, Midwestern dad or coach than a little pun. Folks have been citing a Lil Jon banger and proclaiming from the windows to the walls. And that's as far as I'm going to go with that one. Others have dubbed him a kind of, quote, Midwest prince, extending football excitement all the way to the Kansas City Chiefs' Travis Kelce, and then bringing in, of course, the fact that he is Taylor Swift's boyfriend. The Harris campaign would love to bring Taylor Swift off the sidelines. She loves football, too, just like the running mate, and bring her onto the field in this campaign. They've also been dancing with Beyonce from afar and hope for more by November. Swift has previously told her hundreds of millions of fans, including many young people, where she stood in 2020. You see the Biden-Harris, their 2020 cookies. She's shared those pictures. This cycle, she has not been as vocal about specific candidates, at least not yet. So you have the Swifties and the Bayhive. You have the football and the teachers. You have the internet memes. You have the money rolling in. You have the crowds. None of this predicts what happens in November and who really turns out. All of it adds a level of excitement and almost automatic momentum that this Democratic Party simply didn't have a month ago. That's no secret. And what happens next? We have two special guests after our shortest break. 90 seconds. See you in a sec.
We now return to our interview with the insurance whistleblower.
I just think everyone should know there's an insurance company out there exposing other companies' rates so you can compare them and save.
Sounds like trouble.
It's great, actually. It's called Auto Quote Explorer from Progressive. Here, look. See, we show you our direct rates and their rates, even if we're not the lowest.
So whistleblower usually means you're exposing something bad.
I thought it meant calling attention to something helpful. Like, toot toot, check it out. This thing's the best. No?
One of the things I like about what I get to do is that each day is pretty unique. I might find out that there's not a lot of new numbers in the world today, and so today's going to be a day I'm going to spend researching. The only way to really be prepared is to get it all in my brain ahead of time.
In this fight, as Tim Walz likes to point out, we are joyful warriors. Joyful warriors.
Kamala quoting her new running mate in Wisconsin today. We're joined now by Aisha Mills, a political strategist, longtime beat guest, and she ran the LGBTQ Victory Fund, and Jason Johnson, politics professor and MSNBC analyst. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Ari.
What do you see in this enthusiasm out there for the new ticket?
Well, I think it's less about what you see and more about what you feel, which is what we're all talking about, right?
Yeah.
I personally am stoked and have been looking for something to get excited about, and I think that that's exactly what Tim Walz brings, along with Kamala Harris, is enthusiasm. We finally feel connected again as Americans. Remember, we are coming off of a PTSD, really, from all the way back, certainly to Trump being elected, but then we went through COVID and we went through George Floyd, and we've gone through so much. And so now to have really an opportunity to have joy and to just feel together and to smile and laugh, I think that is really what's going to move this to get forward.
PTSD. Does the T stand for trauma or Trump?
Okay, synonymous, right?
It's your acronym. I'm just here. Let me show you the joy that they've been talking about, which is interesting because we've talked about this before. You can't separate culture from American life, news, or politics. And yet there was a period where the right wing, interestingly, seemed to be able to drive and seize culture and internet conversations with their own style. Sometimes it's trolling and negative, but more so than the left. And now you're seeing it kind of come back. Here's some headlines. Kamala Harris's vice presidential pick, Tim Walz, a quote, certified Swiftie. So that means not just, casual listener. He has some sort of documentation, and a Bayhive member. Swift fans celebrating this. Tim Walz, certified Swiftie VP. Not a bad headline in a lot of parts of the country. And now we've got the documentation on the Beyonce side. This is a proclamation issued by the governor. July 20th became a Beyonce Day. Where do you see this fitting all into people in the summer looking over and saying, wow, I might want to talk about politics or engage in this? It's not all gloom and doom.
All you have to do is log into TikTok and you can see where this is taking us. We are literally reliant upon a meme generation, I think, right now to move people to the polls, and that's a great thing. Think about all the Gen Zs who've come online as voters, all of the millennials who are still the younger millennials who maybe sat it out last time, who are now really invigorated by connection points that make them feel good, that are absolutely culturally based. I think that this is something you cannot overestimate, the power of getting younger people who are more part of the digital electorate, if you will, excited and actually moving offline into the polls. And I think that that's what all this is going to do.
Yeah, fascinating. Let me bring in Jason. You could take your pick, Jason. You could talk Beyonce and Swifties. You could talk Lil Jon. You could talk about the actual ticket. It's what do they say? It's your oyster.
It's a grab bag. It's my oyster. It's my oyster. I am amazed at how effective a decision this was by the Harris campaign. Like I said, we'll be studying this in 30 or 40 years. They really haven't made many stumbles for a campaign that's only been going for 2 weeks. And when you think about culturally, what comes to mind with Minnesota that Tim Walz can play off of? Okay, it's Minnesota. It's the purple one. It's, I would vote for you, Prince music, anything, any memes you can do with Prince, which worked for him, right? He's been associated with that. He was a high school football coach. It's giving Friday Night Lights, and the Golden Gophers of Minnesota are playing in 3 swing states. They're playing in Michigan, they're playing in Pennsylvania, and they're playing in North Carolina before the election this fall. And then you've got, for the older generation, a Prairie Home Companion. I used to listen to that on NPR. It's Lake Wobegon, Minnesota. All of these things are sort of embodied in Walz, and he can take that to Garrison Keillor. Exactly.
I didn't know you knew, Jason.
Listening to that.
You know what they say?
Oh, yes. So,
you know what they say in Lake Wobegon, Jason? All the students are above average.
Oh, gosh. All the students are above average. Yeah, I mean, this is what he brings to the table. And so if you think about it, if you just go from the culture to the math, right, because these things are always connected, the Harris campaign has to hit 39 to 40% white voters across America in order to win. Tim Walz helps with that. They have to get 65 to 68% turnout amongst African-American women. She can probably bring that to the table. They've got young people who are excited. You have a candidate who, at the end of the day, the race is still about Trump and Harris, but you just want a VP that's not going to be a net negative. And the fact that people are so excited about Walz brings a positive to her campaign that I don't think anybody could have imagined 3 weeks ago, let alone 4 months ago.
Yeah. One more item on